LaMelo Ball just got traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and everybody reacted to the news the same way at first. The Charlotte Hornets were finally good. They had a young big three with LaMelo, Con and Brandon Miller. Why would you trade your franchise point guard for Naz Reid and a bunch of picks in the 2030s? It didn't make any sense from the outside, but if you're on the inside like I am, the situation is darker than anybody wants to admit. I wasn't going to make a video. It seemed as if everybody was in agreement that the Hornets got absolutely robbed, but then the media got control of the narrative, and people are starting to say the Timberwolves lost the trade and that the Hornets got better? Nah, I owe it to the long-time viewers of this channel to tell it how it really is. Stick around till the end of this video because I'm about to tell you things you won't find anywhere else on YouTube. Trust me with 20 minutes of your time. So for those new around here who might not know, my name is DKM, and 4 years ago I travelled across the world from Scotland, United Kingdom to Charlotte, North Carolina to cover the Charlotte Hornets, and for 90 days I was courtside at every home game. And if you've ever been to a Hornets game and had front row seats, you'll know that you have access to this place called the Crown Club, which is a VIP section, and in that section you'll meet everybody: media members, entourage, agents, managers, players, side chicks, everyone. We all know the NBA is a 24/7 reality show, but just like reality TV, you only get to see what makes the final cut. A lot of stuff gets cut out. There's so much stuff that goes on that you never hear about. These NBA and media PR teams sometimes do a great job of keeping things behind closed doors. You could make a full documentary about just the Charlotte Hornets and everything that went on over these years during the LaMelo Ball era. Let's just talk about what's public information. You've got the feds accusing Terry Rozier of throwing games for gambling companies. Miles Bridges missed a season due to domestic abuse allegations. Montrezl Harrell was charged with drug trafficking. Devontae Graham faced DUI charges. James Bouknight was found unconscious in his car with a bottle and firearm on his lap. Lottery pick Kai Jones had what appeared to be mental breakdowns on Instagram Live. It's widely speculated that he was popping perks and was cut by the team before the NBA could investigate further. Dwayne Bacon has opened up about his mental health issues and depression when playing for this team. People talk about LaMelo Ball and his reckless driving. The Charlotte Hornets neglected these young men. They didn't support them. They had an absent owner, a dinosaur in Mitch Kupchak who was too old to really connect with the youth, and a bunch of young men in their early 20s with millions of dollars and zero guidance. No veterans in the locker room to show them the way. And what I just mentioned there is what's public. I know a lot of things about what went on in Charlotte during this time period that I won't speak on, but I can tell you about my experience. But before I do this, I want to draw attention to the immediate aftermath of this LaMelo Ball trade. The very next day after trading their franchise player, the front office and coach go to address the media to introduce their new rookies. This was a calculated PR move to avoid addressing the elephant in the room. Let me show you the clip.
I appreciate you asking the question. Totally respected. There will be a time that we'll address, the rest of the roster after some transactions and stuff. But excuse me, just want to continue to make this day about Christian and Hannes. They've earned it. They're only going through this day one time in their life, so we'll keep it at that.
They used this rookie induction as a cop-out. We're not answering questions related to that trade at this time. Today is about those guys, the rookies. That sounds good, but at the end of the day, what does everybody actually want to know? Fans, season ticket holders. They want to hear from the horse's mouth why the team decided to trade their best player. At the time of recording this video, the Hornets still haven't addressed the situation publicly. Fans are still in the dark. And if you were to ask every reporter or journalist in that room, the one question they really want to ask the front office about, with all due respect, it's not about those rookies, it's about LaMelo Ball. But those journalists won't ask those questions because they've been briefed beforehand about what they can and can't speak about.
Important to note that at this point, no member of the Hornets organization can comment on any reported transactions or free agency developments until they become official. So just want to put that out there up front. And furthermore, we want to keep the focus on Hannes and Christian today that they and their families have waited a long time for.
Obviously, you can't ignore the LaMelo situation entirely and pretend it didn't happen. So what they do is they assign the most trusted reporter from the biggest outlet, probably the Charlotte Observer, get him to ask about the LaMelo trade at the start of the press conference, then general manager Jeff Peterson shuts it down, saying we won't be taking LaMelo related questions at this time, and that's it. There's no pushback, no challenge, until they as an organization decide otherwise. But why do they not want to address the LaMelo LaMelo Ball situation right now. They don't want to set themselves up for failure saying we plan on finding a replacement in free agency, because so far in free agency the Charlotte Hornets haven't done anything. And how does it make them look as a front office if they set expectations about something they're going to do and then do nothing? But the reason they get away with this in the media is because if you push too hard as a reporter, they'll just revoke your media credentials. And if you're a journalist that is employed by a company, you are not going to do anything that jeopardizes your position as an employee that enables you to live this dream life talking about basketball. You're also not going to do anything that jeopardizes your employer's position, because they pay you and enable you to be in these circles in the first place. So unfortunately, everybody within the Charlotte media is compromised because they don't want to do or say anything that doesn't align with the narrative the Hornets PR team are trying to control. And I'm telling you this from experience because it happened to me in real life. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to silence me for what I'm about to tell you next. But let me stop you right there and tell you about today's sponsor, Temu, where right now you can get selected stuff for $0. It's actually really simple and I'm going to show you how to do it. Go on the Temu app by clicking the link in the description or pinned in the comments. But instead of heading to checkout, type my code into the search bar, KJY8958. This takes you to the $0 campaign page, and on a qualifying offer, the selected stuff on this page is real. It's actually $0. So I decided to look out for some things you guys would actually use. We love basketball over here, and this wearable 1080p camera, you can strap this on when you're hooping and capture your highlight plays. It's the summertime. I'm gonna get myself one of these portable cooling fans for when my office is cooking when I'm trying to record these videos. And check this out, this cordless heating pad and massager for lower back pain and recovery after you work out. And that's just three of many examples you can claim and follow all the way through. So to find out for yourself what $0 items you can get while this qualifying offer is still live, click the link down below in the description, pinned in the comments, or even scan the QR code on the screen right here. Remember to type my code KJY8958 into the search bar, see what you can get, terms apply, and thank you to Temu for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. In 2021, I was supposed to cover the team representing a sports media outlet that covered many NBA teams, not just the Hornets. This opportunity is why I moved to Charlotte when I did. The company was based in Atlanta, so I was supposed to be the guy there in Charlotte day to day with all the privilege of media, access to practice, interviews, all of that stuff. It was a win-win situation for everyone involved. It validated my credibility on YouTube talking about the team. I have more to talk about because I know more. I get to go to games. It was supposed to be a great experience. And for the media outlet I was going to work with, they get to have a guy on the inside for another NBA team. And because I'm there on behalf of them, any content that comes from interviews, press conferences, whatever, it's their content. If I ask LaMelo or Miles Bridges a question in the media room, they get to post that because I'm just there on behalf of them. And for me, I still benefit from the situation because I'm the one asking the question. So while I don't get to monetize a 30-second clip of me speaking to an NBA coach or player, my audience and new viewers on my YouTube channel, they know I'm legit, and that boosts my brand viewership and credibility as an NBA content creator. From my point of view, this wasn't about money, this wasn't about notoriety, it was about experience. But as some long-time viewers of the channel know, it never quite happens like that, because after further investigation, when they do background checks on the people they are allowing into these spaces, the Hornets PR team realized who they were giving exclusive access to, and realized that giving a rogue independent YouTuber averaging millions of views monthly on YouTube access to these behind the scenes spaces wasn't a great idea. I would have had too much influence and control over the narrative in Charlotte. And that isn't me bragging. These are the facts of the situation. At the time, I had a massive established platform. This was 2021. Social media and content was still very new. Having over 100,000 subscribers back then is a bigger deal than having 200,000 subscribers now. The space has just grown so much. I was averaging 100,000 views a video anytime I dropped a video about LaMelo or the Hornets. The local radio shows, journalists, official podcasts endorsed by the team, they were lucky to even crack 1,000 views. So my original plan of being a traditional media member of the Charlotte Hornets, that failed. And I find this out days before I'm flying out. I've paid for flights, saved money, booked accommodation for rent. It was a massive setback, but I'd already decided at this point, I'm going to Charlotte. I'll figure it out when I'm over there. So I need a new strategy. The Hornets are going to give me nothing. So how can I still benefit from being in Charlotte and get exclusive information that enables me to make better content on YouTube? The answer is simple. Go above and beyond. Go get the information another way. I went and bought a season ticket for the Greensboro Swarm, courtside seats. It was an investment. Go home, make a video, talk about LaMelo Ball, James Bouknight, make it right back. And it's no secret that G League games are a lot more of an intimate environment than NBA games. Small arenas, barely any people there. The people who go to G League games are usually people with a personal relationship to players, family, friends, agents. Where do you think those people are sitting at G League games? They were courtside right next to me. So seeing the same faces over and over again at the Greensboro Fieldhouse Coliseum, I built relationships and made connections with people close to the players at the G League games. And if you know how the G League works, it's a very common practice for the NBA team to send players down to the G League. So some of these players are actually Charlotte Hornets players. But I didn't stop there. I mentioned earlier about how buying courtside tickets for the Hornets gives you access to the Crown Club private room at the Spectrum Center. It's the same thing as the G League games. Friends, family, managers, agents. My whole time doing YouTube until this date, I have never revealed my sources. I wasn't doing this for validation. I never felt the need to take a picture with this NBA player or this person's agent for a couple likes on social media. The smarter play was to keep the relationships that I built private. People in those spaces would trust me with more inside information because I never left a paper trail. It would never get back to them because I would never reveal who I heard things from. My viewers on YouTube, without ever knowing the source, grew to trust me more and more. Not because I ever told them who I know, but they came to realize the information I was putting out there came to be right time and time again. It was actually a blessing in disguise that my media credentials were revoked because it gave me the freedom to say whatever. I had ended up in a unique situation with all the benefits of being in the media, with all the luxuries of independent media. I can be critical of the head coach James Borrego or criticize this player for playing badly because I can't get fired from my own YouTube channel. I can't lose media credentials I don't have. I wasn't dependent on an employer putting me in these circles. The people with the good information in these circles came to me. So what can the Hornets actually do to stop me? Ban me from G League games when I'm one of the few season ticket holders? You can't kick me out the Crown Club, I'm a paying customer. So now that you know all of the backstory about how I know what I know about the Charlotte Hornets and have given you some insight on how things really operate around there, let me tell you the real story about the LaMelo Ball trade. The Charlotte Hornets are a franchise that are not serious about winning. I learned the brutal reality that not every NBA team has championship aspirations. These are billionaire owners, and while some owners are very passionate and involved and want their NBA team to win, other owners just treat owning an NBA team like an appreciating asset. It's no secret that NBA teams appreciate lucratively over time. Mark Cuban bought the Mavericks for a couple $100 million and sold them for billions. The new Charlotte Hornets owners got the team at a discounted price from Michael Jordan, who needed cash to settle gambling debts, and these new owners plan to hold the team for a period of time and sell for mass profit in the future. That hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen. But let me prove my point about the Charlotte Hornets not being serious about winning. The Hornets have made the playoffs one time since 2016. That is 10 years. You understand that over 53% of teams in a conference qualify for the playoffs each year? We can all agree that during this time period, the Eastern Conference has been weaker than the Western Conference. So do you know how bad you have to be over a 10-year span to not be in the top 53% of teams in your weak conference? You almost wonder if it's on purpose. And the truth is, it kind of is. It isn't that the Charlotte Hornets don't want to win, it's that they don't have to. They have been the worst NBA franchise since they were created. They're the only NBA team to never make a conference finals, the only NBA team never to win their division, and they get away with this because they have a fan base that turns out and supports them in numbers regardless of the outcome on the court. The truth is that competing for a championship costs money. These massive NBA contracts come out of somebody's pocket, and there is no guarantee that even if you do spend money, that you will win an NBA championship. So if you're an owner and you're really in it to maximize profits long term, why would you invest more than you need to in the team? What the Hornets did with LaMelo Ball was simple. They used him for a purpose. He sold jerseys, he sold tickets, he gave hope. He served that purpose for 6 years and they paid him for that. But at the end of this season, LaMelo Ball will be eligible for another contract extension, a bigger contract. If the Hornets were serious about winning, they would pay him it. But they're not serious about winning, and now they have Knipple and Brandon Miller that serve that same purpose LaMelo served. Brandon Miller is due an extension. He's going to make hundreds of millions of dollars. Knipple's big money extension is only a few years away. The Charlotte Hornets aren't going to invest $500 million in 3 guys at the same time. So what's the alternative? You trade for Coby White at the trade deadline and you decide to extend him and trade LaMelo. Not because Coby White is a better basketball player than LaMelo Ball, but because he's cheaper. Coby White signed a 3-year $74 million contract with the Hornets. LaMelo Ball's extension next year, if he made an All-NBA team, which was very possible with the Hornets being better, he would have been eligible for a 4-year $300 million supermax. So the Hornets could pick between $75 million a year for LaMelo Ball or $24 million a year for Coby White. The front office knew this was coming, and that's why they went out of their way to go and get Coby White at the trade deadline last year. So now that you're due to pay Brandon Miller's rookie extension between $175 $210 million, however much they agree on, you're basically giving him the money you were already given LaMelo. Now here's why this is a massive problem. They spent the last 6 years selling their fan base on a rebuild centered around LaMelo Ball, just to blow it up right before you've got to commit to him long term. This isn't the first time the Charlotte Hornets have done this. Kemba Walker was arguably the greatest player in franchise history. In 2019, he was due a supermax extension, $221 million. Charlotte didn't want to pay that. Kemba felt disrespected, so he left to join the Celtics. Over Kemba's career in Charlotte, they didn't build a competitive team around him. They made the playoffs one time. They used him for a specific purpose, wasted his best years, and kicked him to the curb. A year later, Kemba is forgotten because they draft LaMelo Ball in 2020, and instead of spending that time period trying to build a competitor around Kemba, they get to play the long game with LaMelo Ball. The fan base gets behind it. They're excited about the future. Now here we are in 2026, starting all over again around Con Knippel. And this isn't by accident. By constantly rebuilding unsuccessfully, hitting the reset button and starting over, these owners are saving money. People in positions of power, general managers, coaches, they have job stability, because if you don't create an expectation of winning, you protect yourself from the inevitable scrutiny that comes when you fall short. Everybody wins in this situation but the paying customer, and the same thing will happen again with Brandon Miller. The cycle is endless, and it's exactly why when you look at the Charlotte Hornets over the last 20-30 years, they've never been good. And if you had any doubt, the LaMelo Ball trade is all the confirmation you need, because you would think an NBA team that hasn't made the playoffs in a decade would be desperate. There would be some sense of urgency. The plan was always to raise LaMelo like a pig for slaughter, but what wasn't part of the plan though was the Hornets being better than anybody expected in the second half of last season. When Jeff Peterson was asked about the Hornets' 9-game win streak last season, he didn't speak with any optimism about the future. He said this: "These guys have earned the right to play out the season." That right there is official confirmation that they planned to trade LaMelo and Miles Bridges all along, regardless of what they did towards the end of the season. Because who else are you talking about earning the right to play out the season? You're talking about the 2 longest serving players on the team. But what makes it so unforgivable is the fact that these fans in this city who have been starving for decades finally had something worth watching. Forget winning a championship, these fans have suffered. The Charlotte Hornets have put together some of the worst teams in NBA history. They finally have a young, fun team that has potential, that can compete with any team on a nightly basis. That's enough to satisfy them. And that's exactly what the Hornets had last season. They had an exciting young core, a big 3 in the making, and as the season progressed, they figured it out. They were getting better in real time. Here comes the facts. The Hornets started the season 16-28, 12 games behind 500. It looked like another wasted season, praying to win the draft lottery sweepstakes. And then finally, it all clicked. They went on to win 23 of their next 29 games, the hottest team in the entire NBA, even going on a 9-game win streak, defeating the top teams in the league: OKC Thunder, New York Knicks, San Antonio Spurs. From January 1st, 2026, the Hornets went 33-16 to close out the year. So let's look deeper at these numbers. The Hornets we saw the second half of the season were a completely different team, unrecognizable. The Hornets record from January onwards, when adjusted to an 82-game regular season, comes to 55 wins and 27 losses. That record would have the Hornets the number 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, with more wins than the NBA champion New York Knicks. Yes, this is hypothetical data, but the data comes from their record over a 49-game sample size. What do you think is more likely? That the Hornets' run was just a fluke, or that their group of very young talented players finally just figured out how to play together and win games? We have seen this sort sort of turnaround before. The Detroit Pistons 2 years ago were on the verge of the longest losing streak in NBA history, 28 losses in a row. What happened the next season after that? The Pistons finished with a 44-38 record. That's the same record as the Hornets did this year. Most years 44 wins is enough to make the playoffs. And what did the Pistons do after that? They kicked on and went even further. They were the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference, winning 60 games this past year. Who is to say that the Charlotte Hornets, with Con and Brandon Miller another year closer to their full potential, couldn't have continued to build upon their breakout last season? What made the Hornets so special last season was the starting lineup. LaMelo Ball, Con Knippel, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, Moussa Diabate. In the 32 games that those five started together, they had an 85% win percentage. Do you know what an 85% win percentage is when adjusted to an 82 game regular season? That is a 69-13 record, which would be by far the best record in the entire NBA. Now I understand 32 games is a smaller sample size, but the data tells you that this was a special young team in the making. The modern NBA is a shooter's league, and guess what? Con Knippel led the NBA last season in three-pointers made with 273 as a rookie. LaMelo Ball was right behind him with just one less made free ball, 272. He played 9 less games than Con did. Statistically, the Hornets had the best three-point shooting backcourt since Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. And guess what? Brandon Miller made over 200 three-pointers too in just 65 games. 3 young players under the age of 25 who made over 200 three-pointers in a season. The Hornets offense was historically great. They had the highest offensive rating as a team in the entire NBA. At one point, they had the highest rated offense in NBA history. It is honestly disgraceful that the Charlotte Hornets have blown this up. It is malpractice. The city was buzzing. The games were sellouts. Everything was finally coming together for the first time ever. You had potential to be great. And what do? You don't even run it back for a full season with the best starting 5 in the NBA and the #1 offense. No, you blow the whole thing up. You trade 2 starters, one of which is your 24-year-old franchise point guard who fit perfectly with your rookie superstar, and what do you get back in return? Not a superstar. You don't get Jaylen Brown or Giannis or one of the top players available. You get Naz Reid, a nice role player and a few draft picks several years down the line. LaMelo was the most important player for the Hornets last season. He was by far the best player on the team. No player was statistically more impactful to their team than LaMelo Ball was to the Charlotte Hornets with him on and off the court. They were 12 points better with him playing. All this young team needed to do was keep it together, strengthen the depth, and for the first time in franchise history, they'd have a legitimate chance of contending in the Eastern Conference. Not just relatively soon, but long term. And what do they have now? Kobe White is a good player. He was a nice pickup at the trade deadline, but that's your plan? Kobe White is your starting point guard? Naz Reid would have been a great addition to what you already had, but you don't trade your franchise point guard to get him. What's going to happen to Con Knippel now? You're not doing anything in this league with Kobe White as your starting point guard. Who's your #1 option? Con Knippel is a complementary player. You get the best out of Con off the ball when you have a ball-dominant offensive scorer and creator alongside him. LaMelo Ball was that guy. 6'7" point guards with elite shooting, elite ball handling, and elite playmaking do not just grow on trees. You can't just go out and get one of those guys. Brandon Miller hasn't even scratched the surface of his full potential yet, and the Hornets were already looking this good. Can you imagine they kept the core together and Brandon Miller in year 4 took an all-star leap? He finally had his breakout year. You're not just looking at a playoff team, you're looking at a team that could potentially run the East for years to come. But no, you traded LaMelo for Naz Reid, you flipped Miles Bridges for Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal, and the frightening potential that this team had has just been capped. This team is average. Next season, they'll either be back in the lottery or best case scenario, make the play-in and lose. There was a real opportunity to build a championship contender in Charlotte. They had something special. Do you understand what the Charlotte Hornets have just done here? This is the modern day equivalent of the Golden State Warriors in 2013 giving up on Steph Curry and trading him for Jermaine O'Neal. In that timeline in the multiverse, are we talking about Klay Thompson and Draymond Green the same way? For how bad this franchise has been for its entirety of existence, they owed it to the fans at least to let it play out for another year. LaMelo loved Charlotte. He wasn't an unsettled star who wanted out. He said numerous times he wanted to play his whole career in Charlotte. He stuck with the team through thick and thin. When rumours started coming out about him wanting out, he went to the media himself and shut it down. He never played with another all-star his entire time in Charlotte. They did absolutely nothing in 6 years to build a team around him, and he still had unconditional love and loyalty to the team and the city. Look at the rosters he had compared to his peers. Ja, Trey, Ant, Halliburton, Cade. Whether it worked out for those guys and the teams that drafted them, at least they tried. The Hornets didn't even try. You could make an argument that the best player LaMelo ever played with in Charlotte was a rookie Con Canipo. If you're a Timberwolves fan watching this or a fan of another NBA team, I've got a challenge for you. Can you tell me just one significant free agency addition or trade that the Hornets made during LaMelo's tenure? Just one. The best I can think of is a washed up Gordon Hayward who only went to Charlotte because they were the only team dumb enough to offer him one last big payday. For everyone that thinks LaMelo's a losing player, is it really a coincidence that this year, the first time LaMelo actually had something around him to work with, that the team made some noise and got good? LaMelo Ball's injury history is way overstated too. I know for a fact that LaMelo was ready to come back in the 2022-23 and 24-25 seasons. And you know what they told him? LaMelo, rest. The season is over. Sit back, get right for next year. We're going all in on the Wemby and Cooper tank. It's just one more year. I don't blame people for not watching Hornets games, but trust the people that did. What people do is they look at the games LaMelo played on a season basis, check the seasons that the Hornets made the play in, the times they were actually half decent, had something worth playing for. LaMelo's rookie year, his sophomore year, and this past year. Is it a coincidence that LaMelo's suddenly healthy when there is something to play for? LaMelo can play through injuries. He's played through injuries his entire life. When Hornets were in contention for the playoffs his rookie year and he broke his wrist, he came back prematurely. This isn't a guy who doesn't want to play. All things considered, this is one of the worst trades in NBA history. And I haven't even had an opportunity yet to talk about the future. What a backcourt of LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards looks like. That's gonna have to be another video. But I could not close the chapter on LaMelo's time in Charlotte and allowing them to rewrite history. I have no agendas. This is what happened. This is how it happened. And this is what's going to continue to happen for this pathetic, incompetent, losing franchise. To the people of Charlotte, do not stand for this. They're trying to gaslight you into thinking you won the trade. You got Naz Reid. Naz Reid's a nice player, but you don't see the Minnesota Timberwolves trading Anthony Edwards for Moussa Diabate. You wouldn't see the Detroit Pistons trading Cade Cunningham for Aaron Gordon. I mean, what the heck are we doing in Charlotte? You had a chance to finally be good and you blew it. The Charlotte Hornets will never win a championship. I'm telling you right now, where I'm from, those owners would not be able to walk the streets after what they've just done this past week and what they've tried to get away with throughout their time in Charlotte. But look, if you guys have made it up to this point, enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. And for more raw, authentic content like this, where I'm just saying it how it is off the top of the dome, go subscribe to my burner account DKM. It's a lot easier to produce content on there faster. I apologize for my inactivity. I should have been on the case sooner. The moment LaMelo got traded, I should have made a video. A lot of the content you see on YouTube these days is AI. It's people using ChatGPT, Claude to cook up these quick scripts. Everything I say is from the heart. It's hard to compete with bots, but I would never sacrifice my integrity and put out some BS. You guys have supported me too much to take shortcuts and cheat the system for a quick paycheck. But with that, it's DKM signing out until next time, and peace.